Hello and welcome to Sports Vehicle Performance. Today we're going to be talking about one of Porsche's most iconic supercars, the Porsche 911 Turbo. The Porsche 911 Turbo, known internally as the 930, is one of the most legendary sports cars of the 1970s and 80s. Iconic for its whale tail, infamous for its turbo lag, and cemented in history as the foundation for some of Porsche's greatest racing cars. But why was it built? Why the different names around the world, and what made it both brilliant and also flawed? The story starts in the early 1970s. Porsche had been dominating endurance racing with the 917, but stricter regulations were coming. To keep Porsche competitive in both racing and the road car market, they needed something new, something they could homologate a racing car while also keeping the 911 relevant. Turbocharging was becoming more popular in racing, especially thanks to Porsche's experiments with the 917/10 and the 917/30 Can-Am monsters, known for producing well over 1,000 horsepower. So Porsche decided to adapt the technology for the road. The result debuted in 1974 at the Paris Motor Show, the Porsche 911 Turbo, designated internally as the 930. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. In Europe, the car was simply called the Porsche 911 Turbo, but in the United States, Porsche marketed it as the Porsche 930, not the Porsche 930 Turbo some people call it today. The internal model number became a common nickname, especially among enthusiasts. To this day, many still call it the 930, even though the official badging in most markets just said Turbo. The 930 wasn't just a regular 911 with a turbo slapped on it. It came with flared rear arches to house the wider tyres, a deeper front air dam, and the now iconic whale tail spoiler. Not just for looks, but to help with cooling and downforce. Under the hood was a 3-litre turbocharged flat 6, producing 260 horsepower in 1975. That was huge numbers at the time, rivaling Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Later, in 1978, displacement grew to 3.3 litres with an intercooler. I'll get back to why the intercooler was important later, but that helped, bumping the power to 300 horsepower. It was brutally fast, 0 to 60 in around 4.9 seconds, making it one of the quickest cars of its day, but it also gained a reputation as a now iconic original Widowmaker. The turbo lag was massive, catching a lot of everyday drivers off guard. You could plant your foot and you'll be waiting around 5 seconds for the boost to kick in. And this isn't like modern boost, where it's much more gradual, but much more like full boost instantly. Many people remember it like being hit at the back by the full 260 horsepower. The intense delivery, combined with the 911's rear engine layout and fairly simple suspension dynamics, the 911 Turbo could snap into oversteer in an instant if driven carelessly. And these photos here show just why it got that reputation. So, while it was fast, it was also intimidating. Early models only came with a 4-speed manual gearbox. Porsche claimed their 5-speed couldn't handle the torque, which is true. The well-known 915 gearbox from the early cars was simply not strong enough. That meant big gaps between gears, amplifying the laggy nature of the 911 Turbo. It was also expensive. In many markets, it cost much more than exotic Italian rivals, and during the US emissions clampdown of the late 1970s, the 930 was actually withdrawn from the American market from 1980 to 1985. Porsche only brought it back once they could meet the stricter regulations. But let's not dampen the mood too much. Here's where the 930's true genius shines. It became the foundation for Porsche's racing dominance in the Group 4 and 5 eras, and also in the IMSA and Endurance series. The Porsche 934 Turbo RSR was essentially a racing version of the 930, built to meet Group 4 regulations, hence the name 934. Debuting in 1976, it kept much of the road car's bodywork and interior. This was actually due to strict weight regulations, but it gained huge flared arches, racing suspension, and over 480 horsepower due to a bigger turbo and water-cooled inlets, providing the cooling needed to allow the extra power. The 934 proved incredibly versatile, winning in touring car series and endurance races. Porsche even offered the 934/5 hybrid in the US IMSA series, with even more extreme bodywork while still retaining the 934 drivetrain. Next up, the ever iconic Porsche 935 took things even further under Group 5's silhouette regulations. It shared the 930's basic shell, but transformed into a radical aerodynamic monster. A cool fact many may not know, but due to regulations of having to keep the original rear screen on the 935 K3, they stuck an extra screen and rear section over the top of the original one to allow for the better aerodynamics. Depending on spec, it could make well over 600 horsepower, and as I mentioned earlier, this is the reason the intercooler was fitted on the road-going 911 turbos. It was added so that Porsche could homologate the intercooler for the 935, as it now being twin turbocharged. It needed it for the extra cooling. You can see examples of them here and just how massive they are compared to the standard road car. But the later versions, like the 935/78, nicknamed the Moby Dick, for its long tail being a joke on the standard car having a whale tail. Anyway, these were capable of nearly 850 horsepower. The 935 famously won the 1979 24 Hours of Le Mans overall, not just its class, but outright, cementing the 930 platform's role as a backbone of Porsche's racing dominance. Throughout its production run from 1975 to 1989, the 930 went through several key changes, and here's just some of them. So, from 1975 to 1977, it was equipped with a 3-litre flat 6 producing 260 horsepower. 1978 to 1989, the 3.3-litre with the intercooler for homologation reasons, producing 300 horsepower. And from 1980 to 1985, not sold in America due to the strict emissions regulations, but finally reintroduced in 1986. But, of course, 1989, the final year of production, and finally, Porsche gave it a proper 5-speed gearbox, the well-known G50 transmission. Ironically, the last year of production finally fixed one of the 930's longest-standing criticisms. Another fun detail, Porsche offered some wild special editions and options like the 930 slant nose or Flakbau, which had a 935 style flat front. Rare and expensive, these became cult collectors' items. The 911 also developed a cult following in pop culture. It was a favourite among celebrities in the 1970s and 80s. Steve McQueen owned one, and so did the rock and roll star Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. Its combination of speed, danger and style made it the ultimate status symbol of its era. The Porsche 930 definitely wasn't perfect. It was tricky to drive, expensive and sometimes unforgiving, but it was also the car that brought turbocharging to the mainstream of high-performance road cars. It set the template for every future 911 turbo. More than that, it spawned some of the most successful racing cars of the 1970s and 80s. Today, the 911 stands as both a hero and a villain, a car that could reward the skilled and punish the careless. But its place in history is undeniable. It didn't just save Porsche's motorsport future, it helped redefine the supercar. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and more importantly, learned something new about Porsche's 911 Turbo or the Widowmaker. But other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.